Okay.
So for those of you who may be listening to the recording, I just want you to know all we've done so far is gone over the agenda, so you haven't missed a thing.
So next slide. So unfortunately, we are now having to put this slide into every single one of our data presentations. It is the slide regarding safety across the state. And unfortunately, this year has been one of the worst years for fatalities on our roads. And we are really trying to focus on this so that we can come up with ways, better ways to understand what's happening and how we can get our hands kind of around it. But we want to make people aware of 115 fatalities as of last Monday. This is updated every Tuesday, so it's just based on what I know, it's going to go up tomorrow. So please share this information as much as possible with your friends and neighbors. Please ask them to slow down. Please ask them to spend more time at a stop sign. Don't run a red light. Those kind of things are really what we're seeing on our roadways more and more, and it's causing these numbers to go up. So just wanted to speak to that tonight. So again, thank you all for being here. Working group members, thank you for coming. I know everybody's schedule, especially in October, is extremely busy, but we do have really good information for you all tonight. I'll hand it over to Andrew.
Thank you, Jen. Again, my name is Andrew Bing. I will lead these 5-point working group meetings. So thank you to all the working group members that are here in person, those that are joining us virtually, and to the members of the public that have joined us tonight. Jen touched on this, but I do want to just mention that these meetings are for, hold on for 1 second here. These meetings are for the purpose of the working group members. We absolutely enjoy having members of the public show up and participate. In fact, this process in different phases has been going on for 4 to 5 years, and members of the public have been an important part of that process from the beginning. But I just always want to set expectations at the beginning that the presentation, the discussion, the questions will be from the working group to the project team and vice versa. There is the opportunity for public comment at the end. If you do wish to make a public comment, we'll just go in order of, have you guys come up, we'll set a certain amount of time, and you can provide that comment. I do want to let the members of the public know something, and again, you're all here. We had our first hybrid meeting back in April. No, when was it then?
Yes.
April, putting her on the spot.
We didn't do one in January?
No, April, the last one.
The last one, yes, was April. Yep.
So that was a hybrid meeting. We only had one member of the public show up, so we were not expecting to see so many of you show up here. With that said, for future meetings, you can certainly come visit us in person, but we've designed this meeting so that you can be in the comfort of your home, hear everything going on, still be able to make a public comment at the end if you want to be able to do that, and save the trip back and forth. So that is totally up to you. We've tried to design it to give you that flexibility, either come in person or just listen in from the comfort of your home or your office or wherever you are. So what we're going to first do is we're going to go around and have the working group members introduce themselves. So I'm going to start with Councilman Riley.
John Riley, District 5, right in the center of the county.
Thank you. Page 4 staff, 14, Christopher.
Bob Fisher, a volunteer electrical engineer, 46 years, glad to be here.
Pam Sirvanbach, Director of Planning for Delda. Kim Hoy Stevenson, Planning and Zoning Commission.
Mark Schaefer, Third District, Sussex County Council.
Barry Roth, historically responded. Catherine Coleman, Villages of 5 Points resident.
Glenn Marshall, Sussex County EMS.
And then we're going to go to the members of the working group that are online. I'm going to just save some time and, well, actually, I'm going to start with Josh and then go to, oh, I saw Lloyd on there. We'll start with Josh. If you could come on and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everybody. Josh Grabsky with Levita Hospitality Group.
Okay, and Todd Lawson.
Come on, Todd.
All right, I'll introduce Todd. As we know, he is the county administrator for Sussex County. Scott.
Hi, I'm Scott Green, a resident of Kings Creek, and happy to be here with everybody.
Great, and Senator Lopez.
Good evening, Ernie Lopez, 6th District State Senate, and it's good to be with everybody this evening. Thank you, Andrew.
And I thought I saw Lloyd on there earlier. Do you see Lloyd on there? Am I not seeing him on the screen?
Oh, no.
No, you can't see. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Lloyd. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know what it feels like not to be able to see it, I'll tell you. Anyway, my name's Lloyd Smits and I live off of New Road. I'm just a resident. Thank you.
And is there any other working group member that I just am not seeing on the screen that has joined us virtually? Okay, great. So we have a good turnout. I will say that the members that are here in person already failed your first test. So you'll notice sitting in front of us on this stool is the owl. That is what we're communicating to verbally, as well as if you can look up on the screen, you can see that it's following me as I move in the center there. So the members of the working group, as well as the public that are at home, are seeing everything you're seeing here. They're seeing a panoramic of this meeting. And when one of you talks, it'll actually focus on you. So I need two things from working group members. Whenever you have a question or if there's anything you want to say, speak loudly, because we need to get our voice to the owl. It's really good, but anything you can help in terms of projecting. And just introduce yourself when you say something. So if it's Bob Fisher, I have a feeling we're going to hear from Bob Fisher. So I'll just say, this is Bob Fisher, and then make your comment, just so the members of people at home know who's talking. Okay. So I'm going to go through our summary of notebook materials. Jen went over the agenda. There is a copy of the presentation. Again, this was all sent to everyone ahead of time. We have the draft minutes from our last meeting. I could have looked right up there to know when our last meeting was. We have a list of our upcoming meetings, and as always, we have the update of our implementation plan. So that's what's in your notebook materials. Jen went over the agenda, so we're going to get started here. The first thing we're going to do is just approve our meeting minutes from our April 25th meeting. So if I could get a motion from someone. So I saw Glenn Marshall, a second. Second. Peter Schwartzkopf. Anyone have any questions in their review of the meeting minutes? Was there anything that they had a question on or wanted to amend in any way? Okay, I don't see anything, and I don't hear anyone coming on virtually. So at this point, if the working group members who are on virtually can come off of mute. All in favor of approving the April 25th, 2022 meeting minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say whatever you say, no or nay, whatever you want to say. And anyone abstaining? Okay, those meeting minutes have been approved. And now we're going to move on with our meeting. So I want to mention one thing. Leah Kinkanda, who is the consultant project manager, she's the person you've seen leading these meetings. She is on with us virtually. Unfortunately, she's under the weather and couldn't join us. The bad news is that means I'm now going to give her presentation. So you guys lost out on that. So we're going to give a quick update on summer traffic, transit, and trail update. So the first thing I'm going to do is go over kind of what the data showed us for Memorial Day weekend, and I'm going to show Labor Day weekend. And you can see this is focusing on the Dover Toll Plaza. The second column is 2021. The first column is 2022, just so you can kind of see the change. There's a slight decrease on Friday of Memorial Day weekend, but steady increases on Saturday and Sunday, and a slightly smaller increase on Monday. But overall, as we might expect a little bit, the traffic has gone up, at least as it reflects at that Dover Toll Plaza. So we had about 287,000 people come to that Toll Plaza in 2022. Yes, Jen.
I just want to comment real quick. So what we're seeing and what this actually shows is that there might be a decline on Friday, but clearly you can see there's twice the uptick almost on Monday. So some of our studies within this area, we are starting to look at Monday travel as a extra day that's people are adding on to their weekend. So
You need to do Thursday travel.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, Thursday was bad.
this was okay.
The one thing I don't know is whether there was any kind of a weather. I can't remember back to the Friday Memorial Day, whether people delayed their trip a little bit because of weather. That could always be an indicator. Yes, Mr. Fisher.
Also, for many years, Bob Fisher, for many years, we came down 9 we came from Virginia across the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. And we came in from 9 to get to Rehoboth Beach. So you have any idea how much additional traffic comes into 5 Points during the summertime, down 9 as opposed to down 1? I realize our focus has been on one, but if we're talking about traffic from 5 points down to the forgotten miles. I think, I remember waiting a long time to get through 5 points.
But again, these stats are just showing year over year, 2021 to 2022.
Well, he was asking about Route 9, so that's gonna go into my other study, which is the coastal corridor study. That we're looking at Route 16, Redden Road and US 9. And so just stay tuned, that's gonna go into another phase here
You
soon.
know, so ballpark, you have no idea what percentage of this number comes into 5.19 at this time.
We do, we have that data now, we're gonna be going into, for the coastal corridor study. And we'll do a presentation if you guys want to hear the information in January.
That's January.
Okay,
I get
yep.
All right, we're gonna keep going. Oh, yes, sorry about that, Mary.
Mary,
Yeah.
Ross, is this just southbound toll plaza? What is,
I believe it's just southbound toll plaza because I did ask for the numbers in Dover. Leah, was there any clarification provided by the tolls folks?
No, it was not. It was my understanding that it was both directions,
Alright,
but we can
thank you.
clarify
Both
that and
directions,
get an email
definitely.
out to the group.
Okay, and then I'm gonna just show here, this is the same information, but for Labor Day weekend. So you can see that, you know, still big numbers, actually more people going through the plaza over Labor Day weekend than Memorial Day weekend. In terms of transit in the area, I am just going to primarily read this slide. I don't like doing that. This isn't, you know, my information, but summer ridership is trending back up about 70 to 80% from pre-COVID. So that's good. There's more consistent ridership now. It used to be kind of focused more on Saturdays. There'd be a spike. Now it seems to be a little bit more consistent throughout the week. And the routes that sees data indicates in the summer, vacationers are using routes 201, 203, 208, and 305 more than other year-round routes. So it'll be really interesting to see, you know, next year if that trend continues and whether ridership continues to go up. For those of you who may remember that pre-COVID, we actually spent one of our working group meetings focusing on transit. There have been a lot of gains going on, and obviously all transit throughout the country has suffered as a result of COVID. So this is not unique to just each area. So I don't think Ellen McCabe is here. Is Ellen McCabe here? Okay, I was told she was going to be giving these slides. So without her here, I'm going to do my best, but I was even less prepared to give this part of the presentation than the other presentation.
great.
Sorry.
So this, you can see what the Lewis line captures, and this is a relatively new line. This has come about in the last year or two.
Yeah, it was literally done. So I believe the planning started in January and they literally had the Lewis line running by summer. They did a lot of partnerships with DART in getting paratransit buses to run this line and then working out the logistics and getting grants to fund the travel. So it's been a really good success story for the city of Lewis. And so I'll let Andrew present.
But you can, hopefully you can see the different stops that are on the Lewis line. There's 10. It looks like the Cape Henlopen, I don't know the date of this slide. I'm assuming that this is an old slide and therefore that opened up on July 1 of this previous year.
It did. They saw really high numbers. So the numbers were really solid for their pilot year. And then they saw once the high school parking lot became a stop, they saw the numbers actually increase. And I believe they said the highest numbers were in the month of August. So which wouldn't be a surprise to anybody here, I'm sure. But that really helped them out.
So it's a pilot program, exceeded expectations with over 6,200 riders just between May and September, May 23rd, September 30th. Utilized DART buses that had been retired, so out of service DART buses. You can see the costs. The cost was approximately $120,000 to operate. The pilot was funded by sponsorships and the bond bill. Thank you to this is on virtually. Thank you to Speaker Schwartzfeld. The program generates 6,100 in ticket sales. The most popular stops for the ferry and the intersection of 2nd and Market. So like any new introduction, I mean, you know, we'll see this year over year and see, you know, hopefully the interest in this grows as people talk about it and see the convenience of being able to hop on, hop off, not have to worry about parking and so forth.
And I was just speaking with Janelle Cornwall, the planner for Lewis, and one of the things that I pointed to was the fact that the ferry is one of the most popular stops. So like DRBA needs to be brought into this conversation because obviously their riders are benefiting as well. So maybe we just kind of line up some more partners to help with this, because I just think this is a very successful transit operation for the city.
So now I'm going to give a quick trails update. There is a trail counter on the Georgetown Lewis Trail near Savannah Road. So that's where we're getting this information from. So you can see the numbers in terms of pedestrians and bicyclists throughout this most recently completed summer. So in June, 12,000 pedestrians, about 19,000 bicyclists. July and August, as you'd expect, those numbers increased. And in September, they came down as you would also expect, although we had pretty good weather in September. I'm surprised that those numbers came down that much. So any questions that I can answer about those last presentations? Now, we do have people on, virtually who can, so if there's any questions about any of the transit information or the trails information, or going back to the forward information, anything that we're gonna move on. Ma'am, I don't mean
Yeah,
to
it's
be
only for
rude.
these ones.
Once we open up that, we won't be able to stop it, so I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. So we're gonna move on. We're now going to,
Andrew, Senator Lopez.
oh, yeah, go ahead, Senator Lopez.
Thanks, Andrew, and thanks, Jennifer. I just wanted to just quickly say, in addition to Speaker Schwarzkopf's work, Representative Smick did a lot of work behind the scenes as well to make sure that that bond bill money got in there for the Lewis line. So I just wanted to make sure that he got acknowledged as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Senator Lopez. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Dorothy Morris from State Planning. She is going to work with her colleague Jason Vogel. They're going to give a presentation on some of the development trends that we are seeing.
Again, I'm Dorothy Morris. I'm a circuit rider planner for Sussex County within the Office of State Planning. And Jen asked us to come down and give you an overview of what we call our development trends dashboard, which is a really cool tool that we use. Jason's going to show you that in a minute, but I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of exactly what state planning is and why we're doing it. So state planning was established in Delaware Code in mid-1990s. As you can see, I'm not going to read everything to you, but our mission, I think, is very important. It's continuous improvement of the coordination and effectiveness of land use decisions made by state, county, and municipal governments while building and maintaining a high quality of life in the state of Delaware. As you all know, the towns and the counties across the state, they make the land use decisions. The state has a big say and a big part of what happens because we put so much money into it. So that's why the Office of State Planning was reopened in the mid-90s. Our staff, we consist of 6 members, including 1 circuit rider planner for each county. Again, I'm the circuit rider planner for Sussex County, but we also have 1 for Canton and Chester. And we coordinate with the counties and the towns in those counties. So, and we're also staffed the Cabinet Committee on State Planning Issues. So the Cabinet Committee on State Planning Issues was also formed in the 90s. It is a group of cabinet secretaries that meet when they need to, and they consider matters relating to land use. I think that I wrote everything in Delaware Code, but I think the top 3 are the most important. They give recommendations for the most desirable general pattern of land use within the state. They talk about the major circulation pattern recommended for the state, and they give recommendations concerning the need for and the proposed general location of major public and private works and utilities. So the Cabinet Committee consists of most of these cabinet secretaries, including DelDOT, DENREC, State Housing Authority. At their last meeting, they are going to speak to the governor about extending the membership to Department of Education and Department of Health and Social Services and Finance as well. So again, here we also, the Cabinet Committee is also responsible for preparing the strategy, state policy and spending, which we'll talk about in a minute. And they started and are running what we call the Downtown Development District with we have 12 districts in the state right now. Towns applied for them through the state. If they are approved as a Downtown Development District, then growth in the development, the person that's doing the building works with state housing, and they can get a 20% rebate on a lot of the infrastructure costs for the development. So the strategies and state policies and spending were created in 1999. All the 3, hate to say I was there when it was created, but all the counties had just updated their comp plan, and then the state decided we don't like your comp plans, and, as I was told by one county administrator, she got a scathing letter from the state telling her what she'd done wrong, and her response was, well, then, tell me how I do it right. So the Office of State Planning, hired a consultant, and we started looking at a document that would basically like a comprehensive plan for the state of Delaware. We work with the static state policies, serves as the primary policy guide for the state, and it directs state spending and investment levels that support the most efficient use of state resources. Excuse me, this document is used by all state agencies and guides not only how, but where they spend their money, and in each level. And I will, go through that in a little bit. Maybe I won't. Okay. So the static state policies and spending is basically broken down into 5 levels. Level 1 would be your downtown areas. That's a level, that's where we want to spend money on growth and redevelopment. Level 2 is sort of the outskirts of the town, maybe still in the town limits, same thing on development and redevelopment. Level 3 is areas outside of town, might be housing developments that are not directly within the town, but right on the outskirts. And we want to make sure in level 3 that we're preserving our environmental resources that are out there. So that's where we're going to spend our money. So, and then level 4 is our farmland areas where we want the money that we spend, we want to spend on farmland protection, environmental resource protection, and that type of thing. So that brings me to the preliminary land use service, or PLUS. Many of you may know what this is. PLUS is a review that the state has, and we do have an MOU, which I'll show you in a minute with Sussex County. But it, Delaware code dictates what we review. And then we do have MOUs with some of the counties and towns that change that up just a little bit.
And just for those who don't know, what's an MOU?
I'm sorry, memorandum of understanding with many of the towns and counties to dictate what we see through the preliminary land use service. But what it is that the state agencies at a table with the developers to tell them, for lack of a better term, the good, bad, and ugly of the site. So that they know before they begin to put money into a site, what they're looking at, whether there could be unmarked human remains, there could be underground storage tanks, anything like that. Hopefully will come up in PLUS, and they know that before they get started, so that if it ends, they're not looking at, I've spent $1 million and now I can't develop the site. Yes, sir.
Yes, Bob Fisher here. Your planning, is that only planning expenditures, or does your plan include activities that could result in revenues coming in as a result of the decisions that you make?
The strategies for state policy and
Yes,
spending.
correct.
Okay. So what the strategy of state policies and spending does is it directs the agencies on how and where they spend their money. So as I said, in level 4, we would want them to spend their money on farmland preservation as opposed to redevelopment of land.
So it's
all expenses.
entirely expected.
Yeah.
I think, is somebody else worry about what might generate new revenues so that you can kind of, normally when I do my budget, I look at my expenditures and my incoming in order to balance it. So and maybe there's somebody else doing that. Or you just use the numbers that you're given and provide the whatever you do. Okay.
Well,
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sorry, this Pam's found out from Delta. Most, all of the counties also have economic development offices, so they are responsible for a bit of more marketing, bringing in businesses to invest in Delaware. I'm not sure.
And the governor's office also has a big say in that.
That's not a hypothetical because I presented an idea to a previous Delta secretary. And I was told that in order to do that, you would have to have significant redevelopment in the area that you were providing the new transportation facility. So, because the state would never be able to pay for it unless the developer were to contribute. Right, so that's why that's important. But today, we encourage developers to bring new money to provide the same interest rate, either the state can pay for the developers. I recommend that you look at my question in more detail and stop just thinking about spending money and how Delta can facilitate inbound money as well. I've been saying that since I first joined this at the beginning of the working group. Economic development is the engine that floats all boats.
So
Absolutely.
so we do have in our development coordination section, kind of a subsection of that, that does look at kind of economic, development and fast tracks some of those businesses that are coming in, depending on jobs and the impacts of the area and all those kind of factors that come into that. We do fast track those applications. So I just want Mr. Fisher to be aware that does happen. And the state does have an economic development office. I cannot remember the
Yeah.
name of it now because it changed.
Small business.
Yeah,
Administration,
Small Business Administration, but it used to be called something else.
DITO,
DITO.
Delaware Economic Development.
Right, so
And we also have, so they have a site readiness fund for the Division of Small Business. They also have their site readiness, and one more, and then we partner with them on the transportation investment infrastructure fund. So that fund is for commercial and industrial manufacturing businesses to, if they are awarded a grant, they can get up to 100% of their transportation engineering costs, their construction costs, their inspection costs, all paid as part of the fund that gets funded for 10 million bucks every year.
And I would urge at the bottom, appendix C of the strategy document, which is on our website, I'll give you at the end, it does outline how each agency looks at each level and how, and what they focus on there. So, the preliminary land use service, as I said, it is a review of development through the state to get, so that the developers know what they're looking at when they come in. This is a sample from the Sussex County MOU. So you will see that any residential planning community, major residential subdivisions containing 50 or more dwelling units, and any non-residential subdivision or site plan, this gets a little confusing, but involving the expansion or existing structure by 25% or a total of 75,000 square feet, must come to our office through Plus to be seen so that they can understand what's on that site before they begin development. There are a few other things, again, that are in the MOU, but the top three are the ones that are most important. Actually, no, number 4, any rezoning in the environmentally sensitive developing area, which was what was in their last plan, that is now a coastal area. We are updating this MOU. So any rezoning in the coastal area has to come to the Office of State Planning. And then our annual report, which gets us to the development trends dashboard. So the cabinet committee must give to the governor by October 15th of every year, an annual report on development, on land use. So in beginning of 2007, the Office of State Planning began tracking through the counties in the town. January of every year, the county provides information to us on building permits and development applications. We put all of those together into our annual report to give it to the governor, so he can see where the trends are, what's happening in each county, whether it be residential, non-residential. The big thing in our annual report this year is the warehousing up in Newcastle County. I think if anybody's been up Newcastle County lately knows the probably millions of square feet that have gone up there in the last few years. That is reflected in our report because they report that to us every year. So the data that is collected are the residential building permits, the non-residential building permits that include square footage, and then development applications that include the number of homes, and or not, if it's mixed use, non-residential square footage. So in 2020, one of us in the office needed some information, everybody was home. And so everybody was scrambling on Zoom, trying to figure out what this information was for the person that needed it. So Miriam Camilio, who was our GIS tech at that person at that time, she said, let me do a dashboard for you. So the dashboard actually contained 3 bits of information, the plus data, and I want to make it clear what each one stands for. So plus is what we see through the preliminary land use service. It is a developer that is considering putting something on that site. So the fact that it goes through plus does not mean that it's been approved. It does not mean that it's being built. It means they are looking to put something on that site. So that's very important to remember because plus is a big number. Oh, sorry, wrong one. So the development application approvals, this is given to us by Sussex County. This means that a development approval has been through the county, has been approved. So it's not being built yet, but it's been approved on that site. And then the third one is the building permits. As building permits are pulled for each site, they track them, they give us the information. And then, so you have what might happen, what's been approved to happen, and then what's actually happening on the ground. So it's important when you see these numbers to note that. And then anything I've talked about tonight is available on the state planning website, stateplanning.delaware.gov. And with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Jason, and he's gonna give you an overview of the dashboard.
Next, quick question.
Sure. Just clarification, I think. Did I read correctly that future plus meetings will allow public comment?
Yeah, so beginning last month, future plus meetings, they are, public is, has always been allowed to attend. They are allowed to speak. But I would like to note that because this is a meeting, so I was around, again, I was around when Plus started as well. And the major concerns we heard from the county was that if they come to the Plus meeting and speak, they're not gonna show up at our meeting. And we're the ones that are gonna approve it or deny it. We're the ones that have to know what's going on. So under there was legislation this year about public comment. It was passed. So we are allowing public comment. However, we do let the public know that public comment does not become part of our letter, our final letter to the county. They must show up at the county or local jurisdiction to give that same comment. So that, because we don't want them telling us and then saying, well, I told state planning, so why did you approve it in?
Thank you.
So like Dorothy said, my name is Jason Vogel, I'm the GIS coordinator of state planning coordination. Been there about 10 months, and I took over from Miriam, and I'm in charge of all the mapping.
Speak up a little bit.
Oh, I'm in charge of all the mapping thereof and in charge of the dashboard and compiling all the building permits, the plus data, and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to kind of start off. This is our website, like Dorothy said, that's stateplanning.delaware.gov. Once you go to our landing page, you can come down here to the GIS data and demographics and open up that web page. You'll see a development trends link. And then you can jump right into our development trends dashboard. Give it just a minute to load here. And you'll see three different things, three important things here. These are the consumable data sets here. If you wanted to grab them, pull them into our GIS project, you can certainly do so and utilize them for yourself. They're on our first map, open data services now and updated for 2021 data. And then our development trends dashboard, which really just visualizes and brings in those three different components. I guess there are really four different components that Dorothy had out. So if you click the dashboard, it's an interactive map, broken out two different ways. One is going to be development or developing areas level 4, and then the other is 1, 2, and 3. Like Dorothy said, those are the areas we try to focus spending on, and we try to encourage development happening. So as soon as the dashboard loads, you'll see two nice flashy maps. Again, the data sets are broken out by each category and labeled, and they are synchronized. The interactive map, you can zoom in, you can get really tight and see how development is happening in your county in each level or each breakdown, I should say. So the points are going to be your building permits, little hats or houses or your applications. And then we have the breakdowns and metrics on the side here to kind of show how development has happened over time. It's important to note that this 5-year trend that we isolate here on this dashboard. We do have data all the way back to 2008. If you wanted that, we have that data set available to use and bring into any projects that you may be utilizing to, measure these metrics. Again, it is an interactive dashboard. If you zoom in tight enough, you'll be able to click each point and it brings up a subset of your metadata, which will show you what details you may want to see for that, whether it's your square footage, your number of residential units, and so on and so forth. This is the strategies to pick up that data item, which is strategies level 4. Again, it's in strategy level 4 area. So then you click the building permit. It's important to note that there's a record selector here. If it's 1 of 2, there are 2 records that you've selected with the interactive dashboard, and you can jump from one record to the other. This is the building permit point data set right here, which is showing us the 2017 data point, and then there was 1 residential unit on that data point. And you can do the same thing over here. If you see something in this map and it's in this map, let us know because it really shouldn't be separate, honestly. So we'll go ahead and go into levels 1 and 2, and we're going to jump down in here, like this one, which is going to be a building permit. And again, 2017 record, 1 unit, 1 residential unit. I'm trying to find out if one has more data.
John, well, we're gonna speak up over here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
No,
Yep.
I'm gonna be a pain, you know what?
Understood. I appreciate it. Feedback always helps.
Kids, you can scream at us.
I know, right? I gotcha. So it's getting a little bit of lag here, probably from the Wi-Fi. Your home connection may be a little bit better, but this is another building permit from 2019. Shows 1 unit. But again, You know, like Dorothy had said, this is really the dashboard that we use to visualize those elements that she said you want to bring in. You'll see the strategies levels, and they're highlighted in colors, color coordinated. Red is level 1, orange is 2, yellow is 3, and then white, technically no color, is level 4. And I think Dorothy had said earlier that there was a 5th level, and that's out of play, which is just areas that are Hackland Preserve and so on and so forth, that you would just not encourage development in. The development rights have been bought out, so we would not encourage or promote developing to happen in that area, or we have a vested interest as a state to not develop.
So, Jason, I'm
Yep.
sorry, can you
Sure.
get one pulled up so that?
The level 4,
But one.
Yeah, sure. We have a development application. Those are gonna be a development application. We're gonna identify that one. And again, it's gonna pick up the data set for the strategies underneath and the point, because it's trying to make sure that you can see which data item you're looking for. Man, it is slow tonight.
yeah, I.
Naturally. All right, so again, development application, you can see there were 39 units on this specific application in 2021. There's a couple other components on the dashboard I wanted to go over real quick. We have pie charts that break down our residential and non-residential developing. So if you want to click down here, the tabs, they're kind of subtle, but they're there if you wanted to check them out. Again, it's going to break down your levels 4 and your levels 1, 2, and 3, you know, for each county, respectively. And then there's non-residential breakdowns as well.
Hey,
Yeah.
Jason, it's Pam. Can you break it down into per year, or is it always in the 5-year?
So it is always the 5-year on this dashboard.
Okay.
Again, if you wanted to break it down by year on our development, our development trend website or landing page, you can pull those data sets in. They are open data sets on the first map and host it out there as well. You can change the county if you wanted to, but that's really all that we have on this dashboard right now. So again, we're in Sussex County, if I can give preference to Sussex, you'll notice that the numbers change when you select the county, but the numbers will not change when you zoom in and out of the map. We toyed around with that idea, but it was a little too much because it was skewing the data in some respects here and there. So we wanted to just keep it isolated by county if we want to see the breakdowns. Yes.
Yeah, Bob Fisher, that's development. Do you differentiate new development from redevelopment? Because this area of 5 Points is very elderly. Most of the things have been there a long time. But there's no really land left to do new development, but there's like endless opportunities to do redevelopment. And redevelopment, if it's significantly greater in scope and capacity and breadth and convention, can bring massive amounts of new money into the area that we're trying to improve the traffic flow. And I just don't see anything that the state, not just you all, but the state is doing that I'm aware of. I am just a person that sits at home and thinks that would indicate that there's any plans for the great redevelopment of perhaps the finest area in the country, if not the world, between 5 Points and Dewey. That's just my opinion. That's why we live here.
And we don't track that only because the information that's on this is the information that we receive from the county. And so we're limited to development applications and building permits.
So I could have been speaking to Mark Schaefer, who's not sitting there. And John, I think you heard me clearly, and I know that you understand. And in fact, right now, there's been a big debate between a group of people in Sussex County as to where the development should go. And that debate needs to be decided. Maybe John, you can tell Mark what I said. You understand where I'm going. That there is a lot of capacity for redevelopment along the Route 1 corridor that can bring in a lot of money to help with the roads. If you go looking for it, if the people who live here today will tolerate it, and I'm not sure that's the case.
And the county may have that. I will say Jamie Whitehouse, who is the planning director, he's doing a great job of attracting a lot of different things. He has his own dashboard that he's working on, so then he can track that as well.
Todd went away in on anything I said. Todd, did you hear me?
I'm sure if he wanted to, he would weigh in.
Okay.
Keep on going.
Yeah, there was one more data point in here I wanted to point out. It's the plus polygons, like Dorothy had commented earlier. That's really where developing is going to happen or potentially going to happen. It comes in for review for all the agencies to check
Hold on
out.
for 1 second, Bob. Bob, This is really sensitive, so if we have more than one person talking, it's gonna screw up for the people, so. Go ahead.
So those would be your purple polygons in the data layer, and you can click those to give you a little bit more in-depth view of what that plus data was. And we have another dashboard for all of our plus reviews if you wanted to jump to that dashboard as well. So this goes to tell you that it's in 2018, the plus ID numbers 2018, 10, 16. So that tells me it's in 2018 October, and it was the 16th record for that month for that year. So if you click that, it gives you, again, basic information, basic metadata, but we do have plus dashboard if you wanted to go. That's not what this presentation is for, but we can get that resource out there if you wanted to interact with that dashboard as well.
And that's really great information to have, because it'll tell you kind of what people have looked at on different parcels and have come through the plus process. And you can go back to the Office of State Planning's website, go to plus dashboard and see kind of like what's proposed now, what might be coming online, and then track and match that up with Sussex County's dashboard as well. It's such great information, and Sussex County has worked really hard, as Dorothy said, with Jamie building their dashboard to kind of work in conjunction with these. So
Can you go back there? There's one thing, I want to say one thing, and the plus dashboard too also has the original plus application from the developer, so you can see everything that they're saying, and it has our state comments on there as well. So I just wanted to point out, if you go back, yeah, I just wanted to point out, we talked about the difference in the three numbers. So once we get it up, I just want to point out which was which, so that you can understand what we're looking at. Okay, so the orangish number at the bottom, that is plus project. So this is in Sussex County, in the last 5 years, we've seen through plus in level 4, 436,590 square foot of non-residential. We've seen 7,354 residential units over on levels 1, 2, and 3. Again, it's the orange. You can see how much residential, non-residential. The green represents what in the last 5 years was approved by the county. So you can see the big difference there in the numbers. And then the blue is actually the permits have been pulled for in the last 5 years, 5,500 residential units, 618,776 square foot of non-residential in level 4, and then Jason blocked the numbers, that's okay, but the same over there. That's what has been, building permits have been pulled for what's in the blue. Just so you know what you're looking at, because I know in the back you can't always see what it's saying.
Question is there
Sir, hold on for 1 second. At the end of the meeting, I'll allow you to make a comment, but for right now, I know you came in late when we went over it, but
this lady here.
no, I understand.
I got a question, just like Bob had a question.
Sir,
In reference
all right.
to throwing that.
Okay, I'm gonna back up just so everyone knows, okay? And I said this at the beginning. The meetings for the last 5 years, these are working group meetings, okay? And so what we're doing is we're presenting information, and the working group members have the opportunity to ask questions, engage in discussion with each other, or ask us questions.
So this is
We
not
invite-
actually for the public.
We invite the members of the public to come observe, whether here or online virtually. At the end of the meeting, we reserve time to make sure that any member of the public has a chance to provide a comment. That comment can be in the form of a question. If we're in a position to be able to respond, obviously we will. If we can't respond, we'll go back, get the information and follow up with you either through email or a phone call. So we will provide that opportunity. That's okay. That's why I just wanted to explain that. I was just checking one thing with Jen. So I do want to just make sure we recognize DJ Hughes, who's a member of the working group, has joined us virtually. Anything else?
No, that's it. I just wanted to thank everybody for their time and checking out the presentation. If you have any other questions, Jen can get you connected.
I was gonna, did you get back? Can you go back?
Yeah.
Just real quick, I just want to show, so just so it's clear when you're looking at, the level 4 versus the levels 1, 2, and 3. Because sometimes people say that out loud and they're like, well, what is level 4? Where, I mean, I know they explained that that's kind of where we're not encouraging development, but what I want people to understand is that, so the 1s, 2s, and 3s, this is development and growth around our municipalities, right? And so that's where we want to see it. We have supportive infrastructure, we have utilities, we have this kind of thing. Level 4 is more where you would see the rural environment, the farms, and the protected agriculture lands. So I just want to make sure that that's reiterated.
And I apologize for those people joining us virtually. Jen was kind of pointing at a board We're doing our best to make it so that everyone at home can see everything, but every once in a while we have pointing going on and it's impossible. Does anyone else have any questions? Again, this information is being presented not so we get into a huge discussion about this. It's really to show you, and from the beginning of these 5 points meetings, we tried to focus on areas where we can help educate people, let them know where there's a lot of information available to people. You can dig into this and get a lot of information. So any other questions for any working group members? I don't see any hands raised online. Okay, so we're going to continue on here. Give me 1 second so I can get this back.
Andrew. Bring back a little bit.
There
There you go.
All right. And now I'm going to bring up Sarah Coakley with DelDOT, who's going to provide us some information on the Henlopen Transportation Improvement District. You'll hear us refer to it as a TID. Sarah?
Good evening. My name is Sarah Coakley and I work for DelDOT as principal planner and I manage all of our transportation improvement districts. And so tonight I'm going to give an update, kind of high level on the Henlopen TID. But before I get into that, I did want to do like a brief introduction on what is transportation improvement district. If anyone's not familiar with them. So basically it's a geographic area that's been designated by local governments, so Sussex County in this case, for the Henlopen TID and DelDOT. And it's defined specifically in order to secure the required funding to provide the needed transportation improvements in that area to accommodate the future land use in the county's comprehensive plan. So normally, when projects come in for future development, if they're generating at least 50 peak hour trips or 500 daily trips, they're required to conduct a traffic impact study. And then based on that, they're required to contribute to improvements or build them. And so the idea with this is that it's much more comprehensive. We've jointly along with the county done comprehensive plan for the area, parcel specific land use forecast and traffic analysis for all the expected future land use in the area. And then the developers pay a fee based on what they're building that then is pulled and set aside from those improvements. So it's a different way of ensuring that development is contributing and paying for their traffic impacts. So some of the benefits of a TID include it's more comprehensive in nature. In our capital transportation program, we have a 6-year CTP. It's updated every other year. Projects located within our transportation improvement districts are awarded extra points in our prioritization process. Also, because they function as a transportation impact fee, the TID fees stay local. They are required to be stored and saved separately to any other funding and can only be used specifically for the agreed upon transportation improvements in that TID. We've also found that TID allows for more equitable treatment of competing developers and also known costs for developers. So instead of having to do a traffic impact study and make an educated guess on what they're going to be required to do, they know ahead of time. And that can actually function as an economic development tool because they're in some cases, it'll enable them to provide more complete information on a pro forma with the bank and easier to get loans. And then expedited development review. So traffic impact study can take anywhere from 6 to 9 months to complete. And then it has to get reviewed as well. So not having to do that saves that time from the plan, the development process. So you may be wondering where are their TIDs now? So we have 5 in operation, 4 in Newcastle County, both Westtown and Easttown are in the town of Middletown, and then Hyatt's Corner and Southern Newcastle County. And then the Henlopen TID. And so the ones that are in operation are on yellow on this map. And then the blue ones are in various stages of planning and development. And we have 8 of those, including Newark and Southeast Milford. They'll both be transitioning into operations shortly. And then we have 4 in Kent County, Treswatt area, Magnolia, Little Heaven, and South Frederica. That are all in the traffic analysis phase and or working through the concepts and infrastructure fee program. And then, we're also working with Newcastle County on our Churchman's Crossing area TID. And then, Milton, with the town of Milton in Sussex County. And then, not shown on here because we haven't defined the boundaries yet, but we're, also planning on utilizing a TID to implement the Southeast Sussex study that's currently underway, south and, east, south and west of Millville.
With that question on that, one, John Riley, will that go as far as Route 54 and Route 20, you know? Because I would love to see it if we could go incorporate some of those areas. I know it's a distance, but
Well, no,
Is that in the Southeast Sussex?
yeah, we're
area?
still, right, and we're still looking at what the boundaries might be for the TID. We can talk offline about the Southeast Sussex
Okay.
because we've had a couple of hiccups, but we're definitely working with Sarah to kind of bring that.
I know it's not 5 months, but
No, no, you're fine. We're
Okay.
good. I can update you.
So for the Henlopen TID, it was established at the end of 2020, we're coming up on the year anniversary in about a week or two. And after more than 3 years of working together between Delta and Sussex County, it's about 24 square miles. It's the largest in operation right now, and it's the second largest after Magnolia. And then it includes 50 existing intersections. With the new connector roadways that are planned, that goes up to about 70. 50 existing intersections and approximately 47 road miles. And in the fiscal year 21 to 26 capital transportation program, because that's basically at the time that this was done, all the projects totaled about $300 million. And about a third of that, about 100 million, was in that CTP. And then the developer fees in the Hamilton TID are expected to cover about 24% of the cost of the projects. So the idea is as projects are go through our CTP prioritization process and are added, basically it covers the match to go along with federal funding plus a little bit more. So this map here shows the improvements included in the TID. So as you can see, about a third of the cost of the improvements were included in the previous CTP. And I'm going to go over shortly updates based on the current CTP because we have our fiscal year 23-28 one now just recently completed. And as you can see on this map, so the yellow are roadway widening improvements. The green lines are new roadway connections. And then we also included like 13 roundabouts and a little bit less than that in terms of traffic signals as well. And all of these improvements, when they're added into our capital transportation program, they will go through the regular project development process. So field survey, preliminary engineering design, and also public outreach and public workshops as well. So we developed concepts for these in order to determine the cost estimates for them, in order to make sure we're collecting enough fees. But public outreach and public workshops will still be done for each of the improvements as they occur. So currently, 8 agreements have been signed with owners and developers and recorded. Another 7 are in process. About 480,000 developer contributions have been collected. And then another 330 in developer right-of-way dedication or construction commitments have been made. So right-of-way being provided for the Airport Road extended project. And then also improvements along Beaver Dam near Kendall Road as part of Cardinal Grove. And then we are working with the county to do an update to evaluate land use changes that have occurred since 2018. So while the TID became effective at the end of 2020, it was based on the land use plan done in May of 2018. So we're looking at anything that's changed since then. And so this map shows those parcels where there have been changes since 2018. And most of them have been relatively minor changes. But we're basically redoing all the traffic analysis to make sure that map transportation improvements will still work. And so we're taking the 2025 projections from the original study, and then we're adding just the increases in the land use and then rerunning everything in order to verify the improvements. And that's expected to be completed over the next several months. And then in the fiscal year 23-28 CTP, we have some exciting updates. So both Shady Road and Coastal Lane improvements have been added to the out years with preliminary engineering, which is project design to begin in fiscal year 28. Mulberry Hill Road extension from Cedar Grove Road to Route 9 was also added to the out years of the CTP, and then Airport Road extension was actually moved up to start design earlier. So originally it was in the earlier CTP to start design in fiscal year 25, and now it's planning on starting design this fiscal year. So we were able to move that up 2 years. And then Delta recently completed what's called a planning and environmental leakages study, which is basically to get a head start on NEPA. To identify environmental, and that includes both natural, historical, and cultural resources. And then there's more information available on it on that link there. But if you go to del.gov under projects, you can find the information there. But basically, these are the two alternatives that resulted from that study. And so as you can see, they both avoid the agricultural property there, and also there's a historical property in red that both of these alignments would avoid also. And then this slide is showing the typical sections. So basically, it's anticipated to be a single through lane in each direction, 11-foot wide with 5-foot shoulders, then a 5-foot buffer and a 10-foot wide shared use path on both sides along that road. And I'm happy to answer any questions that the local group members may have.
I do have one.
Dr. Morello?
Yep. Would there ever be a possibility of adding additional area to the TID? Or is this a fixed entity that will never change?
So in general, once a TID is established, you have all the approvals, is there a process to then expand or enlarge that TID?
There is a process, so like there may, depending upon what the results of the analysis show that we're doing, we may need to make adjustments. Expanding the boundary, that would really depend on the county's comprehensive plan and whether like they're calling for any changes to like.
Well, I can think of two major developments that are being talked about, not introduced by any means, but out Route 9. So basically, just from the edge of the TID to the 5 Points area, there's going to be at least discussion about something there, and then further out near Cool Spring. And then, of course, I got to mention New Road. I mean, I don't know if there's any way to help those people, you know, as part of this plan.
So I know like Cool Spring and Dairy Farm, for some of that area, we did evaluate it, if that area was initially included and then removed it. So yeah, we like do know what the impacts there would be from the original study. So that was an idea.
One of the recommendations that was put into the new CTP, I believe, was the widening of Route 9. So we're beginning the widening of Route 9, starting in Lewis from Ward Avenue to Old Vine Boulevard, where we would potentially see the signal go in and potentially connect with Mulberry Hill Extension if that happens. I think there's a lot of discussion happening about the continuation of widening Route 9. Further,
Yeah.
right? So we're not sure what those limits are yet, but that's probably something we'll be
I
discussing
mean,
in
I
the spring.
can see Cool Spring,
We-
developing, and harvesting, developing, and
Yes, and so we are looking at those scenarios and we're starting to kind of talk about that again. CTP development starts this spring. That'll be within my group with partnering with county members, council members, planning and zoning members. And then what the kind of shift this year for me is asking municipalities to kind of feed some projects in as well. Because we want to start providing a lot of support as developments come in around them. So they have the infrastructure and projects in the pipeline.
yeah, like Route 54 down Selbyville is a great example of that.
Yes,
They
exactly.
just, Selbyville is going to reach all the way to Fenwick, the way they're going eventually. But I guess the question is, are we proactive in adding these areas, looking ahead and anticipating future growth, or do we wait until something's in the pipeline and then react to it?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the idea is for them to be, TIDs to be organic and changing. So since we're doing an update now, I mean, once we run the initial numbers, we'll be coming before county council.
But I think Jamie's made some good suggestions in regards to master planning efforts, like when you know something's kind of coming, it's not even like come into plot yet or something, you know,
Right, right.
starting it beforehand. And we're kind of, with coastal quarters, we're kind of taking that initiative with Greenwood and Bridgeville, who aren't being part now of the coastal quarters primary study. We broke them off and we're master planning around them to give them the support for eventual development, right? So those kind of like things have to be continued and thought about. Route 9 is something the county and DOT need to sit down and really have talks about when we start planning CTP in the spring. We have different tools. There's the TID updates, but we can have different discussions too about quarter capacity and those kind of things. And how the county wants to handle the land use in that.
And I know Glenn wants to say something, but I mean, remember what Sarah said. I mean, it took 3 years to get
Yeah.
this approved. So, but the fact, and you can see in Newcastle County, there are a few more that are already kind of gaining some traction. So hopefully through what we hope will be some successes with the Cape Henlopen TID, that'll spawn, more areas, but that may not help with things that are happening like right now. But the hope is that we can see
Well, it
this.
seems like we're always reacting and sometimes, we look at the situation and think, dang, if we just, built something sooner, the land would have been available, it would have been easier to get the property rights and so forth,
Glenn?
So the other, Glenn Marshall, so the other piece of this that I'm not hearing, and I hear support and all this development, is how emergency service are implemented within this, right? So nationwide is the response time from the time you call 911 to you not going to do it. Not a reality. And again, I'm here as a representative of Sussex County EMS. So I'm also a member of the Lewis Fire Department and I interact with, and that is one of our biggest challenges. And our numbers in the volunteer world are going down. So that is a crisis to us.
I
right?
hear you.
How do we get, because
We need you on our team more, because I feel like I'm the only person sometimes saying, or Kim's the only person saying, where is the interconnection? Where is the emergency response gonna go when there's traffic from the summer traffic? That's why we
Well,
pulled
no,
you guys into
yeah.
coastal corridors to kind of have those conversations. What routes do you want us to start protecting and enabling you all to move about to those corridors and these areas better? Where can we stop putting neighborhoods putting up blockades between
so
each
that's the
other?
other piece, right? It's not just getting there. It's
Right,
going
it's
in there. Can we get to
Right.
emergency? because
continuing that.
parking in the streets.
And one of the things, and so not to go completely off topic, so Anne Marie Townsend, she's not here tonight, unfortunately, she sends her apologies. When she was in Dover, she literally partnered with the emergency response teams and went around to neighborhoods explaining these things, right? Like, this is what's gonna happen if you only have one in and one out. And unfortunately, that's the reality on the roads these days because of the growth, not just in Sussex County, all of Delaware is seeing growth. I mean, I grew up in Dover, Dover's not what Dover used to be. So getting people to understand that are moving here now, how important those things are. So if you have people that are willing to come with us or go into counties meetings and talk to them and say, hey, we can't get through this corridor because of what is already out there. Can you consider that for us? I think that's gonna go a long way.
And
you give input on, from your perspective on potential developments? I don't think you
So
really
when
do.
you say that, are you talking to fire department now?
Fire department and
So
the
no,
paramedic program.
they do not come to us, right? So, and that's part of the problem, because, I'll say it as a paramedic, we come in with a Suburban, but there's an ambulance, and depending on the level of the emergency, there may be an engine, but a fire, things along those lines, we've had issues where we can't get to the emergency, because there's a single entrance, or street parking prohibits it. So we either have to go around the back way or it's a dead end, and so now then, I don't want to delve into the water system and how that creates an issue. But it's a problem, it's not going away, and it continues to escalate.
Would it be possible to create a process where they offer commentary as part of the approval process?
so, well, let me,
Just talking about flood. Is there emergency management?
this is Mary Rolfe.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Is there emergency management agency that is a part of flood?
Dr. Morris, FEMA is part of PLUS and they do comment. So, yeah.
So there is.
I want to come to Kim.
I'm Kim Stevenson. Reality is when the developers come to us, we have ordinances that they've checked off the boxes for. And Plus will say, consider this, and they'll go, okay. That's all they say.
Here's
Considered it. We've considered it.
Yeah.
Here's the plan. Now, there used to be, I remember under the Minter administration, there was a thing called Livable Delaware, which was interconnectivity. Was that a law? Was that a suggestion? What happened with all that?
So Dorothy Marks again, Livable Delaware is just changed names. So we're still living with a lot of the policies there. It was not a policy for interconnectivity, it was a suggestion at that time. So we do have, but our office, our whole goal is to continue the implementation of the strategies for whatever changes need to be, made to coordinate with the counties and the towns to make sure that this kind of information gets out to you guys what you need. DEMA, as part of CLUS, talks about the evacuation routes. They don't necessarily talk about the interconnectivity. That's usually DELDOT and their policies that guide that.
So we can continue this discussion for a little bit, but I'm just gonna try to put a big umbrella over it. I mean, this discussion is at the very heart of why, in essence, this group has come together. We're gonna raise issues, we're gonna provide information. Hopefully you all, it doesn't sort of end when we get to the door and it's time to leave. I mean, hopefully these discussions can continue. They're not easy ones to come to conclusions on, but it has to start with conversations and discussion. You get input, like that Glenn just provided. I mean, these are important things. We talk about not being too late to the show for transportation investment. We don't want to be too late to the show for, fire department and those types of services. So, we could, I'm sure, with very little, we could spend 3 hours talking about this, but we're not going to do that. But we have a little bit more time.
I heard you, but I do want to ask.
No, we have time. This is Councilman Schaefer.
Just so Glenn's aware, Plus still does ask each fire district or fire company for comments on every application that comes before Plus, don't they?
No, we do, that I know of, the fire departments do not get, they have access to our website, but they do not come to Plus and comment.
They used to always have to comment.
The
They were
state
informed
fire-
that the development is coming before Plus.
Now, the state, yes, Dennis correct, state fire marshal does comment on them, but
So-
not the individual fire department.
If I could just give a quick example of what Glenn's talking about, I don't want to throw Milford under the bus, but I live there, so I'm gonna do. Milford Pond, that was built, just on the south side of Milford. I don't know if anyone's ever driven through there. I have some friends that live in there. And the minute I hit that neighborhood, I'm like, oh my gosh, you will never get a fire truck. You won't get a school bus in here, you won't get a fire truck in here. And it's not because of what was approved originally, it's because of all the variances that they came back to the city for and the city granted. And so now, after the state fire marshal commented, now it's back to where it's impossible, as Glenn said, to get an emergency response vehicle inside that neighborhood safely. Unless they expand the roads or they prevent parking from being on the roads. So that's the kind of thing I think that Glenn's speaking to that presents such a big challenge.
I think though, Mayor Roth, and I know we're gonna keep this quiet, but for short, but I think what we're also talking about is all these new developments that are essentially islands. And they're not connected to anything around. So if you need to get somewhere, you need to get there fast. You can't cut through someplace, you can't do anything, you've got to go the long way. I think that's what we have to find a way to solve.
Well, again, any other questions or discussions to this? I encourage everyone to continue this discussion and hopefully, we can see some changes regarding this. But Sarah, thank you for your presentation and for bringing all these. TIDs are important, and we're going to be getting more data as we go on TIDs. So we'll continue to bring that back.
So just real quick too, I just want to say how important this discussion was, because I think it shows how everything is connected and how we need to pay attention to that. And how we can work together to kind of make improvements as we go through the adding more TIDs and then doing more studies down in Sussex County.
So we lost an elected official and we gained one. Senator Lopez had to drop off. I asked him to come back on. I sent him an email. I don't know if he will, but we did gain Representative Schmidt here. So we thank you for being here. We're at that point. In the history of baseball, we have 3 people own the home run record. It started with Babe Ruth at 60, and then Roger Maris at 61, and now Aaron Judge. In the history of 5 Points, we've only had 2 people provide the implementation plan update, Jeff Rigner and Leah. With Leah being ill, I now become the Aaron Judge of the 5-point working group. I will be the third person to do this presentation. So I'm on
Yeah,
it.
that's-
Welcome to
It's only American. It's accurate, you're not even close.
Oh, that's true. I don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Sorry.
All right, so, the presentations that we received from, tonight, those are, really at the heart of what we do in terms of trying to educate, inform, bring issues to the table, let people go back, discuss it. The one constant is always talking about, the purpose of this when it first started was our 78 recommendations that came out of the phase 1 working group, and then the role that this working group, phase 2, does in terms of implementation and giving an update on that. So I am going to go through that. Aaliyah is on virtually to assist if I run afoul, but I am going to move forward here. So these are our 5 categories. I'm not going to spend any time on this. These have been here from the beginning in terms of the different categories. So in terms of, as of our last working group meeting in April of 2022, we had 56, now we have 56 of 78 recommendations in progress, ongoing, or completed. That was compared to 55 of 78 at the January meeting. So we have 1 category B recommendation newly in progress. We do have 3 recommendations that are to be initiated in 2022, so we still have some time left here. So 59 of the 78 recommendations are in progress, ongoing, or completed. 1 category B recommendation newly complete, 1 category B recommendation changed from in progress to ongoing. And I want to always clarify, in progress means it is actually just started, it's nearing completion, it's at some part of the just started to completion. Ongoing means it's something that's never going to be finished. It's always going to be going on, ongoing. So that's why we list things as ongoing. So some things can be completed and done, others can be kind of never really completed. They're always in some part of the process. So you can see some of the other things. I'm going to go into more detail on each of these, so I'm going to go through that quickly. So you can see our number of recommendations by status from April to October. We didn't have anything change here. However, I'm going to go into more detail here. So in terms of our A category, study the feasibility of widening or adding 2 lanes on Plantation Road from Route 24 to Cedar Grove Road and Postal Lane. So here is our update. We talked about the Mulberry Knoll Road extension study that Sarah commented on during her presentation. An extension of Mulberry Knoll Road between Cedar Grove Road and Route 9 is feasible, and 2 concepts were identified. There's further analysis that's ongoing. And once complete, this route will improve traffic circulation in the area, reducing the need to widen Plantation Road. Again, there will be public opportunities for public outreach and involvement throughout that process. In terms of category B, you see that we've had 1 that has since been completed since our last meeting, another that is ongoing, and 2 obviously that dropped out in progress, but they now come into the ongoing or complete category. So B10, endorse don't block the box legislation. And again, I'm actually going to pause for 1 second here. For any members of the public that don't understand what we're going through, I think it's important since we have several here and some more. These are 78 recommendations that the working group voted on and passed that DelDOT and the county said they would support moving forward with these 78 recommendations. So this process has been sort of going through each of those, prioritizing those 78 and systematically moving through those. So when you see something like B10 up here, what that's referring to is that was one of those recommendations. So that's what we're referring to here.
Quick question.
Yeah, of course.
Kim Stevenson. So this is, okay, I understand, don't block the box. Yes, yay. Camera enforcement, so somebody's stopped in the middle of thing, traffic can't go, we're gonna send them a ticket.
I'm going to get to that. Give me
Okay.
one slide. There's really 2 parts to this.
Sorry, man, I didn't mean to jump again.
No. I'm going to have you ask the same question.
Okay.
Just let me get one more slide in. So the first thing here is that the working group wanted to endorse. Obviously, the working group doesn't have the actual ability to to change this, but endorse don't block the box legislation with camera enforcement. So it's now complete. So this is kind of the process that went through. Certainly any of our elected, state elected officials can comment, please feel free to do so. But House Bill 490 passed the House of Representatives and Senate in June. House Bill 490 is currently awaiting the governor's signature, so it's not actually in place yet. Once passed, the state and municipalities can use electronic traffic monitoring for vehicle obstruction system to assist in the enforcement of right-of-way. And continue on. Studies showing that intersection blockages are frequent is required for an intersection to be eligible. And DelDOT is currently developing selection criteria and a candidate list of locations that will be evaluated by the monitoring system vendor. So this process will be considered in that study. So now to your question.
So they're gonna get tickets?
It's gonna operate the same way that the red light traffic. So it's gonna use the same camera, my understanding. Technology has advanced so much that they use the same camera for the red light violators for the don't block the box. It's the entire same process.
But the police will also have the ability to.
Oh, they can do all they want. Yeah.
They will be able to say, no, buddy, you're out of here, or whatever. I mean, if getting a ticket 3 weeks after they block the traffic on the highway. It'll help people who are here all the time, but not the people who are here.
It'll help for the next time they come.
Yeah. I'm thinking, no, and I'm not saying poo, this is awful, I'm saying, great, okay.
It's, police officers are not going to relinquish their authority. Yes, you gotta say your name. Oh, Steve Smith.
You don't know you're on.
Get this thing in the middle. Oh, Steve Smith. Little buddy. The cameras do not eliminate the authority of the police. So the police aren't going to say, hey, I don't have to write a ticket, or I'm not taking any enforcement action because this is captured on camera. That doesn't occur, still doesn't occur today for red light. You can still get a red light ticket if it incurred. And the red light camera people, they're real people that are watching that. So they'll know, hey, we're not going to enforce that because there's a ticket.
And so again, many of the recommendations that the working group came up with were infrastructure related. We're trying to add capacity or change them, but there were some that were more kind of these things that the working group really wanted to focus on. There's other things besides just building or things like that could be done to help. And so this was one idea, try to get this legislation passed. It may not solve that traffic problem, but when the person gets a ticket, they'll be less likely to want to be in that situation again.
And thank you to our legislators for getting that passed. We appreciate that. And checking with my legislative aide for DelDOT, there are a number of transportation bills that still need to be signed by the governor. So I don't want anybody to think that that's not happening. It's just getting on his schedule to be signed.
Yes, Speaker Schwartz.
Thank you. We wanted to do this several years ago, but it was just recently, within the last 2 years, a year and a half, that the technology came out to where they could use the same cameras and everything, and they could use the same vendor and everything, but it's been needed for a long, long time. I like the fact that technology and the GPS system in your cars is such now that when you're approaching a red light intersection, it'll tell you. So anything they can do to advertise this thing, make people not violate, is a good thing.
So I was just going to say the same thing, that you do see it pop up like red light here, and it makes you think, hey, I'm a safe driver, but I'm not going to go through that red light. And maybe if we can get it tied into those, Waze and Google Maps and things like that, that it says, don't block the box intersection coming up, or every intersection, that's really helpful.
And another thing that can be done is to make sure that your constituents have the number to the TMC. So like tonight, I watched 3 cars turn left on the Savannah Road on southbound. So I called the TMC and I said, hey, there's only 3 cars getting through. There's not a stack northbound. Like, why is that timing so short? Can you check it for me? A normal citizen can do that, right? Like, doesn't have to be somebody from DelDOT to do that. So we'll make sure that you guys get a.
I have Gene Donaldson on speed dial.
The 79th recommendation that we get passed was to clone again. It just narrowly missed approval, but we are still trying to get that approved before Jan and have it all over the state. So
You guys, you should probably bring these up to the 5. I'm doing that.
all right, so B14, identify locations where trees can safely be planted within the right of way. This is now ongoing, which means that, again, this is something that is always going to be looked at and considered. But this was another one in the B category. DelDOT considers adding trees during development of capital projects. At the January 2022 meeting, DelDOT provided the working group with guidelines that govern how trees can be planted within the right of way. And DelDOT's going to continue to solicit feedback from the community for future capital projects. So, this is an ongoing thing. I think most people would agree it's nice to see trees as you're driving, but trees can pose problems to cars if they're not done in the right way, if it's not the right type of tree. So that's an ongoing effort, and I know that Mike Campbell over here, part of our project team, has been working on that. So after the meeting, people can feel free to chat with him. B25, identify the costs and benefits of dedicating Nassau Commons Boulevard to public use. The Henlopen TID, we've already talked about that tonight, recommended a project to improve Nassau Commons Boulevard to state standards and become a state maintained road, which is currently not funded. However, the developer of the vineyards has agreed to approve a portion near US 9 for TID fee recoupment credit as part of entrance improvements for future development phases. The DelDOT is investigating right-of-way issues, including maintenance for the remaining portion to Janus Road. Jen, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
I can defer to Pam probably for that, if she wants to.
Yeah, this actually is just passed, in the last couple of weeks or month or so. Yeah, so we were kind of stuck in a holding pattern with the vineyards, and they have, just recently been very cooperative and, want to do whatever they need to do. So then they actually did enter into a signal agreement as well at Nassau and Route 9. So that would be a signal, and then they are going to do this as well. So creating that safe area for that large development and the Redners and and stuff. So they're going to be opening in November, I think. So they're, yeah. So yeah.
Okay. So we're going to go on to the C category. Let's see that this was one of, we had one that we wanted to initiate in 2022, which we've done. That's why the in progress has gone up one and the initiate has gone down one. This is C1, conduct a corridor study on Route 9 to determine the feasibility of widening to 4 lanes. So our update on that is that the Plantation Road project will complete the widening of Route 9 from Ward Avenue to Route 1. Widening is recommended by the Henlopen TID study with limits from Ward Avenue to just west of Old Vine Boulevard. The project is programmed in the fiscal year 21 to 26 CTP. Project development process began in October 2021. So the coastal corridor study, you've heard us mention that previously, will begin a preliminary evaluation of Route 9 from the Old Vine Boulevard to 113. So again, this has been initiated. Initiated does not mean we're necessarily at step 5 of a 10-step process. You got to start somewhere. That's what we're doing. We'll continue to provide updates. Hopefully, we start to see some progress. But this has been initiated, and we want to make sure the working group was aware of that. C16, study the feasibility of providing driveway access from Beacon Middle School and Love Creek Elementary School onto Mulberry Knoll Road. So this is now in progress. The project team met with the Cape Henlopen School District in July. They are open to improving traffic circulation in the vicinity of Beacon Middle School and Love Creek Elementary School. As most of you know who are in that area, there are significant backups on Route 24. John J. Williams Highway during arrival and dismissal. I was talking to Jen before this meeting. We are going to be sometime in the next few months setting up a further meeting with the school district to try to pursue this.
And including our legislators, so Speaker Schwarzkopf and Smith were just included in an email with the school district and myself, and we're going to be pulling in Delaware State Police as well to talk about their entrance and their need to potentially get out to Route 24 during the summer months while the school is shut down. So bear with us. This actually just literally today became something a little bigger. We're going to explore moving buses out behind the middle school, no, not the middle school, Love Creek Elementary, onto Mulberry Knoll. Once the signal, obviously the signal is the big deal. Once the signal on 24 at Mulberry goes in place. So yeah, we're gonna coordinate that with your staff. Yep.
Thank you. Again, a couple more pieces of information about this in terms of currently at Departure Beacon Middle uses 13 buses and Love Creek uses 10 buses. Over only 2 buses turn left onto Mulberry Knoll Road. So as I said, the project team is scheduling that meeting. So again, one of the things that the 5 Points Transportation Study, your all continued work, and part of the implementation plan of the working group, the monitoring committee, is to hold everyone accountable for continuing to make progress, continuing to do things. I hope everyone can see that there's a lot of communication that's going on with a lot of the kind of institutional leaders in the community, whether it's a school district, the elected officials, emergency services, whoever it might be. So, that's certainly one of the best things that's come out of this. So category D, you see one's now in progress. One that we are going to initiate is obviously dropped off because we have one in progress. Develop design guidance to separate pedestrians and bicyclists from highway traffic using aesthetic treatments. So that is now in process. DelDOT planning is drafting a complete streets design guide that will offer design guidance for roadways, including bicycle and pedestrian facilities. The plan is currently in draft form and will go out for public comment in early 2023. I know Mike Tyler couldn't join us. He is on our working group. He's a bicycle advocate, has been. I'm sure he will review that and be able to provide some input and report back as that moves forward. Category D, an update, develop concepts and estimates for filling all sidewalk gaps along Savannah Road between Lewis and 5 Points. The Savannah Road sidewalk project started construction November 1st of last year. It has been completed. It places sidewalks on the south side of Savannah Road from Quaker Road to the GNL Trail. The old road relocation project will add sidewalk to the project limits. DelDOT will inventory remaining gaps in fiscal year 23 and report to the Byway Committee. The Byway Committee has begun the Savannah Road Master Plan process. So again, that is an update on something that was already that's already been ongoing, but we're trying to again.
Can we get, Mary, is there anything you wanted to say about the Savannah Road?
No, I think we've had some, a couple of meetings and there's some preliminary concepts that the consultant is working through. And I think more than anything, when folks talk about a master plan and everything that's going on around here, I think I'm going to steal Jen's language and she speaks to it being a reimagining of Savannah Road. And I think that's a really nice way to look at it. Otherwise, folks go, what are you going to do?
Right.
So I think reimagining.
Just ask Jen. Jen's got ideas. No, Mary's leading that study with our byways coordinator.
Great. So going on to category E, again, we have one now in progress and one that we were supposed to initiate that's dropped off. E4, evaluate the potential transportation benefits, costs, and impacts of a new road connecting Route 1 north of 5 Points and the Vineyards. So that is now in progress. A new road connection would allow developments in the area to access the roadway network for more than just a single point. The Vineyards signed the TID agreements for future phases. DelDOT and Sussex County will continue to coordinate with incoming developers throughout the development review process. Again, that's just getting going. We'll provide more updates as we go. So that is our implementation plan update. Next step, yes, speaker.
Malfunction Junction. Where are we on that project? Is that part of this or is that a separate project that DelDOT's doing?
So the one you just saw, you mean?
Malfunction Junction.
So no, so Plantation Road is the improvements on phase 1 are going to basically eliminate that, the 1D turnaround.
Right.
We had signed an agreement with Lowe's, if you remember. I need to reach back out to them apparently because they haven't started the driveway. We thought they were waiting until the summer traffic was done and they still haven't done anything. So we're not clear if the real estate agency that we signed the agreement with for Lowe's actually let this local Lowe's know, hey, you have permission to do this now. We're going to work with our project team too, because we're taking away one of their entrances. So you would think they would And that would help people come in off Route 1 and then go right directly into the Lowe's property. But that 1D, my understanding is Plantation Road. I wish Todd Oliver was here to speak to it, but the roundabout that comes part of Plantation now takes that.
So speaking of what we can do, in January, when we come back for our next working group meeting, we'll make sure that an update, a specific update is on.
I thought they were going to construction in 24.
That sounds right. Let me,
Yeah, I don't have
Late 23, early 24, I thought. We'll put them in the planning and design stage right now.
I don't know if anyone who's on virtually, any of our team members on virtually have anything to add to that, but I don't have the specifics yet. I can see Jen looking at it while she's looking by.
I was trying to do that.
Mine is tied into Steve Schwarzkopf about the 5 Points intersection close itself. Is the Minos Conaway Route 1 Great Separator project? That goes all the way to the 5 Points intersection, right? When it starts, because it has to. No, is there a separate project?
It goes just south of the bridge.
goes to goes under the bridge. to New
What
Road.
is the name of the project that basically puts all of the side roads along one? Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's all the way. It affects Route 1 all the way to the traffic light.
No,
Well,
it goes just south of the bridge and the turnaround. and-
Bob, what's your question about?
So this is,
I'm trying to determine that has an impact on that intersection too, and that's gonna start next year, correct?
You know, that's, I think you've heard Shantae Hastings, who's the
Yes.
deputy secretary, talk about this, that when she provided the 5 Points intersection presentation, I think it was at our last meeting or
Right.
one before. The strategy that's going on is to see what the impact is of all these other projects that are ongoing in and around the 5 Points area, the one you just described, the one the speaker is talking about. Let's get those done. Let's see what the results are of that. And then let that information lead us to what we decide regarding 5 Points itself.
Here's what I hear, okay, those all interact clearly at 5 Points, and we'll do all these individual projects. We don't really know how it's gonna work, so let's see how bad it is when we've done all this, and then we'll figure out how to fix it. I'm sorry, that's not the way I did system engineering for 46
Well,
years.
but that was just your words, those weren't our words.
I don't, no, I'm sorry, that's the way I characterized what I just heard. I don't mean to be rude or anything about it, but I'm just trying to see that since they all interact with 5 Points, that's sort of where they all come together. It would make sense to try to ins and outs go, one goes into the other and they all interact and they all have to be coordinated. So
So-
I'm sorry.
when we first started, just so we're clear, everyone, and when the public comment was done, everyone said, we can't get out of our neighborhoods, we can't get around, we can't move. And these projects are ones that were already kind of in the pipeline to come online and enable people to move around. If we pull that intersection at 5 Points to do construction right now, people cannot get around. That we cannot reroute people on the east side and west side efficiently enough. So these projects are going to come in and help that happen. The Canary Creek Bridge, the relocation of Old Orchard, all of those on the east side, and then all of these on the west side are going to work to help people move along Route 1 corridor without being on Route 1. Because we need to go in there and improve that intersection once we study.
I was not suggesting immediate work. I was suggesting a plan to be looking at how these various plans are going and try to see alternatives. But that's okay.
No, so
I'm not-
alternatives at the 5 Points intersection. I'm trying to understand what you're saying. So alternatives at the 5 Points intersection or
Yes, and I'm trying to look ahead, what projects you have and coordinate as they all get executed so that you have plans involved as you see things in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, this is Pam, I think that's a very good point, and as good as our traffic engineers are at forecasting and using synchro to determine origin and destination, it really needs to get flushed out once these projects are put into place as to how people are actually going to move around this area. I would hate to initiate something that costs hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars just for the planning part and not know how these people are, how you all are going to utilize the new infrastructure. So I mean, I know that that's like the big elephant in the room.
That's your approach.
Speaker?
Yeah.
This is Pete. There's an argument to be made for and against it.
I understand.
I understand the fact that, we have 5 points is the problem area, one of the problem areas, we don't mess up. And we're going to increase the availability to get to that intersection. But if we do something with 5 points first, not knowing what the other impact is going to be, then we're going to have to come back and redo 5 points again at some later point. And then to your point, with you fix malfunction junction back with the oval or the circle and make that an alternate route. When we do start to work on that, they have almost everybody's going south when they come into that intersection. And they'll have a way around that will be an improved roadway to move traffic through, which will help during the construction, whatever. 10 years after I'm dead and gone, but it's gonna be a while. I mean, I think we all knew that when we started this. We're talking, looking down at least 10, 11, 12, 13 years.
But I also
We're
want
what,
Mr.
3 years
Fisher,
into it?
yeah, so I want Mr. Fisher to understand too. I mean, I have my visions, right? Like, so I know we're gonna have to look at tying in the transit center. We're gonna have to look at tying in the trails. We're gonna have to look at how we make it safe for every mode of transportation. And then how big does this need to be? How much money are we going to spend on? I mean, there's so many factors involved, but you can be assured that we're already thinking about it. Even though we're not studying it officially, we all have kind of an understanding that it's going to be a really big lift.
I believe you, and that's what I was alluding to. What you're doing is called planned incremental. You have to do things in a certain cycles. You can't do everything at the same time.
Right.
But you still have an unknown, and I agree with the point of not knowing how people are gonna react to the individual projects, so. I'm sorry I brought it up, and thank you for.
And don't forget, a year from now, if we see our transit numbers go up by 1,000%, that's gonna improve traffic, so let's all get on transit, get out of our vehicles.
I know, he jumped off.
I know, continue.
Oh, I got you. Never mind.
Did he come back on?
He jumped off. He's not on the call anymore.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, wait,
I'll
then,
text him.
Leah, can you check?
Text him and see if he can come on for just 2 minutes.
I actually took a picture of this and sent it to Pete. And,
Okay.
So we're gonna continue work on recommendations and convene the working group in January, provide email updates, same thing. So what we're gonna do, I know we've lost some members of our public. I want to remind anyone again who's on virtually or any members of our public, we're glad you're here. You add to the environment. It's nice, again, for the working group members to be able to talk to people other than themselves. However, feel free at our next meeting just to log on virtually. You'll still be able to hear and see everything going on. You won't miss a thing, and you still will have the opportunity for public comment, which is what I'm going to do now. So if anyone in the room or virtually by raising your hand wants to make a 1-minute comment or ask a question, now's the time. There's no pressure, you don't have to, but this is the opportunity. So I'm just going to go around the room left to right, and then I'll come to our virtual. I did see this. If you could just stand up, state your name, and speak as loudly as you can for our hour.
All right, I'm Harry Caro, live in the area. Been following, seems good. I had 2 items, one with the Lewis Transit, which we like. I don't know if the plans are where people can actually have a path where they can go on and off different points. That would be nice and great.
We'll communicate that to Anne Marie Townsend, who's unfortunately not here tonight, but and let her know.
You mean from the Lewis Transit Center?
Yeah.
So that's dark. So Jared is on.
I thought you were talking about the Lewis,
Yeah, the Lewis one.
Oh, the Lewis.
Yeah, the Lewis one.
Okay.
So if you can hop on and hop off.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So the other thing I would just like to ask DelDOT, as you make all these changes in roads, it would be really helpful if you keep safety in mind as far as information. For instance, when they changed the 2 lanes, when you're going north on 1 and turning left on Route 9, they made it only. So when you made that turn, or if you're coming straight from Savannah Road, you have to be in the correct lane. There's no signage there, so people who don't come, all they had to do was paint on the road only. And that would make things so much safer.
Thank you. We were told that the west side didn't have signage and we fixed that problem. So now we'll fix the turn lane as well. Thanks. We'll
Thank
get
you.
that.
And again, this is
Thank you
exactly
very
why we
much.
want to have.
Great, yeah. Well, we did fix that. The only thing we could do was put the signage, and if you look now, coming west off Savannah, you look to your right, there's a massive sign that tells you this lane is for this lane is for
I
this.
just think you put
Yeah.
it on the road and make people driving seats only.
There was something we couldn't do the paint on the road, but we'll look into what can be done in the turn lanes.
I'm gonna continue around the room. I see anyone raising their hand, a member of the public. There you go. Okay. Yes, sir. You could stand up. Actually, just if you wouldn't mind, Alice, can you come up a little bit? We just wanna.
Yeah.
There you go.
We're jealous of resident of local Landing, and I did see a picture just a minute ago, and I wanted to get a little bit of clarity if I could. What happened there. But to try to get, wrapped around what the potential size of the roundabout could be that impacts that wooded area right there, right outside of Kenwood Lane. We've heard anything from just a minor, circle, much like the one outside of one of the BD facilities, the surgery center, to a monstrous circle that's going to impact that area up into the backyards of some folks' homes. So if we could maybe get a little clarity on what that visually, that impact would be.
Is there any one member of our project team who's in a position to speak to that? The one thing we don't want to do is be inaccurate. So if we have accurate information, I want to provide it. If not, we'll follow up and get that information out either through our following 5-point email, or we'll bring that information back at our next working group meeting. But does someone have?
Which roundabout? Which roundabout is in question?
The plantation.
I can share that right now.
Thanks, Leah.
Just a moment while I share my screen.
What you see on the screen is accurate to what we decided on the proposed.
Yeah, she's pulling hers out.
What appears, and I know, to scale or, the mind's eye about it, it doesn't look incredibly impacted on that chunk of ground that we've been hearing.
So which
Is everyone able to see my screen?
Small, is there a way to make it?
Yeah, I'm going to zoom in a moment once everyone's oriented. So,
Hold on.
All right, now we can. Yep.
okay, so right here is the Lowe's, and I'm going to zoom in on Malfunction Junction. Just bear with me. All right. So you can see the yellow and red lines, which depict the location of the roundabout, and you can see exactly how much space it takes up relative to what is there currently.
So Leah, the question is, are the trees that are pictured outside of those yellow lines going to remain?
And I think Mike Campbell in the room, would you be able to speak to that, Mike?
There are trees proposed along the shared use path. I can't see the screen, but yes, around the roundabout, there are proposed street trees.
No, Jen, were you asking about
Yeah, the forestation. that's-
all the trees that are outside of the yellow line? Are those trees
Can
remaining?
you scale in any more closer, Leah?
Generally, if it does not need to be taken out for construction, they would remain.
So I think that the intent is for those trees to remain unless for some reason a few of them need to be removed for construction purposes.
So that you're gonna just minimize that impact of that property, the way it sits right now, which is completely treed.
Right.
To, something very close to that, I would suspect.
That's the line where it's, that's the proposal.
Is that available for us to have access from this?
Leah, are we able to get this
Take a
out in
picture
the
of it.
5 points, following 5 points newsletter?
I just
Uh,
wanted
Wait,
to be
Pam,
clear.
hold
that
on one
this-
second.
oh,
Yeah,
no,
I can
no.
follow up on that. Yes.
Okay, we're gonna try to get this image out in the following 5 points, the next one.
I think
Sorry,
we
Pam, I
have
didn't mean to
some
interrupt you. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
exactly. I would just make sure, that like, that our engineers that are working on that. Cause I can't tell if those yellow lines are the end of the shared use path or it's the end of the limit of construction I just can't tell, so what he said, like, it might be
Right.
a bit more out, but I don't know.
So, sir, what the speaker, he asked a question about this, and I softly, I didn't make a firm commitment, but I sort of encouraged our team that at the next working group meeting in January, that this will be part of our presentation. So we'll come with more information about the status of it. We'll come with more information about your question about impact and so forth. So again, we'll have more information at that, maybe in our following 5 points newsletter, but at the next meeting in January.
We're definitely gonna have information because our website currently says that we're starting construction fall of 2022, which is now.
Because that depiction differs from.
Correct, from the one that was up. It looks like it's been adjusted to promote the trees to remain behind the houses. That's my perception, but as Pam said, we're gonna get clarification.
With that.
Yeah, we need to get more clarification.
We don't want to get any information out that's not 100% accurate.
What's from? We don't want to say it out loud.
That's all mine. Everybody's
Well,
friendly.
we'll get that in 1 second, so that's not part of the meeting. We're gonna wrap it up here. After the meeting.
I'm going to stop
Any
sharing
other-
now. Thank you, everyone.
Anyone else in the back for public comment? Did anyone raise their hand, Jen?
Not that
as far
I
as members of the public?
Does anyone have their hand raised?
I see one attendee with a hand raised.
Whatever.
I can't see who it is.
Oh, her name is, it's Diana, I believe, Diana from, I live in as well. so-
You have to give her.
Yep. Diana, I've asked you to unmute.
I'm hitting it. I
Okay,
am
we can hear you,
unmuted.
Diana, go ahead with your comment or question.
So the diagram that was just shown regarding the Henlip, the 5 Points construction project does not show the stormwater management pond. That will be along that Plantation Road connection. So I think that is a little bit misleading about what trees will be left behind. They are also currently working on trimming back the trees along Salt Marsh Boulevard. As of today, they were in there cutting them down, trimming them down. And also they had the Delaware Electric Co-op has started working on movement of the electricity. They have trimmed the trees along Plantation Road. They have not cut them down, which we thought they were coming down. Perhaps when the road work is being done, those trees will come down. But that's what I've saw today, but I am concerned about that diagram if it goes up.
Okay, well, again, we will come back with a further update.
Yeah, and Andrew, I'm sorry, yeah, and the project team can update the footprint, the stormwater pond, and any replacement of trees as part of the Delaware tree bill. So we can get all of
And
that.
if the working group likes, we can get a full update on the projects in the area in January.
Yeah.
Time frame. Thank you.
And at that point, I now don't see
No,
my screen.
oh, it's because Leah put hers up, so that will be why.
Well, I know what the next slide is.
The next slide.
All the best laid plans. We had anticipated Senator Lopez being on. He was on for the first half of the meeting. He had to drop off. Speaker tried to text him. Representative Smith tried to text him. I emailed him.
And Andrew's note to self is listen to Jen and do it in the beginning.
But anyway, we want to thank Senator Lopez for his years of service to obviously the community, but specifically to the 5 Points working group. We want to give him that public send off. This will be his last working group meeting. I'm not sure. I think Bob Fisher is part of the group. I know Jen is. I know I am. I'm not sure anyone else can claim having attended every single 5 Points meeting. There may be a few others, and I don't mean to leave anyone out, but certainly Senator Lopez is part of that small group, and we do want to thank him.
More people, right?
Well, there may be more. I don't want to.
So stay tuned. I did nominate Senator Lopez for APA Delaware, which is the Planning Association for the state of Delaware. for an award for being, participating in the 5 Points Working Group, never missing a meeting, and being an outstanding legislator. That would be a great send off. I'm praying that he gets that award. December meeting for APA Delaware will let us know if he does.
And you know, sometimes
They
you take certain things for granted. I don't think, I don't think any of us should take for granted the commitment that our elected officials make to this group. I mean, they're here. And when they're not here, they're following up with us to say, I couldn't be there. What happened?
Right.
What do I need to know? That doesn't happen everywhere in this country, and it certainly happens here. So that was an unsolicited, just thank you for everything. And I don't know what those answers are.
I'm leaving.
You're leaving?
I got one thing.
So, wait,
I got one thing I want to say before you leave.
all right, well, I do want to go on my next thing here.
Uh-oh.
Okay, is that it? Yeah, go ahead.
You.
Is it me? It's me. So, I've been with Delta Planning now for 5 years, and so moving on to different things, not necessarily bigger and better, but different things. And so I am probably going to be ending my time with the 5 Points Working Group. I'm not sure if I'll be back in January, possible. I'm going to be handing this off to my counterpart, Nabila, Humaira Nabila, who represents right now Kent County, but she's going to kind of step in for the 5 Points Working Group and work with you all to further the implementation plan along and be able to do all the wonderful things that I've been able to do for you guys. I'm gonna miss it. I hate to say, like, I was like, get rid of it, let me go do something else. Coastal quarters, I'll still be working on as well. I'll still be doing the county coordination and engagement. But I'm, like I said, looking to do more focusing on our municipalities and kind of spreading the love around Sussex County. So.
You know, there's an old saying that's going to really be put to the test, that no one person is irreplaceable. That saying is going to be put to the test when Jen is no longer part of the 5 Points Working Group, because I mean,
Mention the detail.
you guys see her energy, her passion for this area, and passion for getting things right and not taking no, at least not the first one. You should see her in our project team meeting if you think, you know, what you see here. I mean, she is just a driving force behind everything that, you know, from a process standpoint. Obviously, she can't drive every project that happens. That's not her role. But in terms of the process that led to a lot of the successes that the 5 Points Transportation study has done, she's been from day one with the driver of that. And so she deserves a lot of thanks. Hopefully she'll be here in January, but at some point she's going to leave.
At some point, I'm like,
And,
in my volunteer world, I'm called a firecracker, so I think that's kind of what he was alluding to.
So thank you, Sarah Lopez. Thank you, Jen. But really,
Yes.
you know, thank you to everyone who
everybody.
continues to make this a really successful effort. I can't advance my
and
slide. but-
Josh, also, Josh Graspy, I just want to thank you for your commitment to the 5 Points Working Group while you've been with us. He has asked that we find a replacement for him as well. So we will be kind of trying to reach out to other people who might be interested in helping us continue this effort. So if you know of anybody, let us know. We'll be happy to reach out.
And just again, our final slide, as I bring us in under 8 o'clock, which is always my goal. Our next meeting will be January 30th. Location to be determined. We like this location. We had a little bit more members of the public show up than we anticipated for the previous meeting. We always want to make sure we have enough room, but I think we made it a pretty comfortable area, very easy to get to. So we'll get information back out to you. And again, we thank you for being here. We thank you for the discussion. We thank the members of the public who joined us. We are going to continue to do hybrid meetings. Just so everyone knows.